Live updates, #her future, policymakers, donors, advocates discuss family planning. Live updates, #her future, policymakers, donors, advocates discuss family planning. Family Planning Summit 2017 London, photo credit, Family Planning 2020 on Twitter. Matters on family planning will be the major issue when policymakers, donors, and advocates from around the world gather on Tuesday morning at the Family Planning Summit in London, UK. They will discuss efforts to reach the world's Family Planning 2020 goals and ensure that more women and girls around the world are able to plan their families and their futures. Family planning is a best buy in global development. When women and girls have access to family planning, they are able to complete their education, create or seize better economic opportunities, and fulfill their full potential. In short, entire families, communities and nations benefit. Premium Times brings you live updates of the event. 9:23 am, Melinda Gates speaks, access to contraceptives changes everything. Contraceptives are one of the greatest anti-poverty innovations in the world. Late, Babatunde, Asotamin, taught me so much. I am deeply troubled, as I'm sure you are, by the Trump administration's budget cut. 1 in 5 girls in developing countries becomes pregnant before the age of 18. 9:25 and Melinda Gates concludes her speech. 9:26 am, Nigeria's Amina Mohammed, UN Deputy Secretary General, joins a panel for further discussion. 9:29 am, achieving SDGs will be better met when reproductive health and family planning issues are well understood and taken by women and girls. Family planning matters are essential and enshrined in SDGs 3 and 5. Amina Mohammed. 9:35 am, we still face significant funding gaps to resolve global family planning issues. Amina Mohammed. 9:38 am, Amina Mohammed concludes her speech by calling for family planning calls to be taken to the every disadvantaged girl in the world. 9:39 am, a minute of silence is held for late Babatunde Asotamin, the UNFPA boss. Tedros, the new head of WHO, commences his speech. 9:42 am, family planning leads to economic and social empowerment for women and girls. Tedros. 9:44 am, WHO head, Tedros Adhanom, concludes his speech. 9:51 am, to get there, we must empower women and involve men, a Canadian official says. 9:52 am, you can count Ontario, Canada to do its part, the Canadian official says. 1008 am, Dr. Jane Asay, Ugandan Minister of Health, speaks. 10:10 am, Ugandan president in 2012 committed $5 million for the next 5 years for family planning. Dr. Jane. 10:13 am, Dr. Asay lists the efforts Uganda is making to meet family planning targets, lists challenges including 25% teenage pregnancy. Jane Asay, Ugandan Minister of Health. 10:14 am, Uganda recommits to allocate $5 million for the next 5 years for family planning matters including drugs. Dr. Asay. 10:28 am, this is the first time in decades that new technology is introduced to health and preventing pregnancy and safe abortions. 10:31 am, the Bangladesh Minister of Health takes the floor. Zahid Malik, takes the floor. Malik highlighted the successes of Bangladesh in dealing with family planning matters. 10:46 am, Indian Minister of Health, Indian fertility rate has declined from 2.5 to 2.2. Underage marriage in India crashed from 47% to 28%. Minister Noura, Somalia. Somali government has sent a law on early marriage and working with religious leaders and using Islam as an entry point to educate its population on maternal health campaign and outreach to increase contraceptive usage among refugees and returnees. 10:57 am. Denmark 65 million people are displaced, and we are using our humanitarian services to make sure people have access to family planning. As such, in relation to this summit, we are pledging $15 million to cover UNFPA supplies and IPPF on ground, and hopefully we will meet millions of girls who need contraception. (10:59 am). A woman in Gaza refugee camp said she is afraid of pregnancy as it is like an octopus, and drag me towards the grave. 11:08 am. Deputy Foreign Minister Norway. It is the priority of the Norway government to promote sexual and humanity right. Being able to choose with whom, if and when to get pregnant is a human right, and no one must be left behind, and where to start is the humanitarian settings.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school.
11:12 am. Norway will donate $90 million to direct supplies in UNFPA. Norway will expand on comprehensive live educate on sexuality, as young people are key to our future. 11:14 am. Norway also pledges to support civil society SRHR with $5 million up to 2020. 11:18 am. India. We have to know that adolescents are human beings, and a thing about sex, there is a need to give them education on contraceptive and how to get them. Many girls don't have the power to decide about the type of contraceptive. We need to stand up and fight for the common. 11:23 am. We can't decrease teenage pregnancy without talking to the teenage themselves. We have to make sure we talk to these children, or else we are not getting anywhere. We have to incorporate religious leaders. We have a long way to in providing comprehensive health education. 11:27 am. Mozambique Minister Abdullah. We are committed to providing family health care comprehensive education in all secondary schools. We can't decrease teenage pregnancy without talking to the teenage themselves. We have to make sure we talk to these children, or else we are not getting anywhere. We have to incorporate religious leaders. We have a long way to in providing comprehensive health education. 11:44 am. Uganda. She decides, helping women have a voice to decide on their sexuality. It is very crucial for boys and girls to decide on what to do with their lives, when to marry, when to give birth, what type of contraceptive she wants to use and do to get it. Women needs to be empowered, and the countries need to fight against the fears of women on making sexuality issue. She should be able to decide. She decides only if and only one decides. She Decides is a global movement, brings in young people to campaign and support promoting women's sexuality and contraceptive usage is very impressive. Every donation is welcome. We need to make up for the $6 million shortfall from the U.S. donation. Many countries can still do more in getting domestic resources for the campaign. Governments should look into their budgets to reprioritize, as there is a need to look for more domestic funding. There is still a need to spread the message on sexuality education and rights. Many counties are yet to be aware of the necessary for the laws to protect the right of women and girls in deciding their sexual fate. 12:01 p.m. Chad Minister of Health. She decides in Chad she is very moved to see many men and women come together, for she decides, since Brussels in March last year, many things has happened to Chad. What will the world be without women? I cannot imagine a world without women. How can we help the world if the women cannot decide? Nobody has the right to decide for you. You have to decide, for everyone to decide, and there are conditions. First is to have autonomy. You cannot depend on a man if you want to decide. Education is the key. I have a privilege to be educated and am educating my girls. 12:12 p.m. Johanna, Philippines, youth advocate since 16, having a best friend who is HIV positive and a cousin who was raped at 16, and does not have the choice of deciding. I have 4 cousins who were pregnant at teenage and could not do anything about it. Out of 10 pregnancies in the Philippines are teenage pregnancy, and this would not have been an issue if they can decide for themselves and not their families deciding for them. Am not one because I had information and privilege to make sane choices. There is a Trump in every country promoting patriarchy, and that is it is hard to advise young women because of the fear of every churchman. Girls needs to be able to decide for themselves on their bodies, who and when she wants to have sex and who she wants to do it with and how many children she wants to have. Access is a must for all girls when she decides. We need access to education, information and supplies because a girl can, should and will decide. 12:21 p.m. Rwanda. 66% of health workers taking care of women in Rwanda are women. 64% of people in parliament are women. All these are translating into positive policies for women. Every offices when they go to the parliament to defend their budget they must show what percentage affects women. We are in full support of the She Decides. 12:25 p.m. There are still many girls and women who are left behind, especially those who are HIV positive and with very diversity. We must not leave behind women in their diversity because they have a right to enjoy their sexuality and human right. 12:44 p.m. Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, in her keynote address said women's rights are human right. There is a huge leadership vacuum. It's a crisis and we don't know how to get away from that. She Decides came along at a time when the world need leadership to fill the vacuum, to championing the course of women, to achieving a right for women and girls until it becomes a norm. There is absolutely no reason why anyone should want to do harm to another. We need to stand up to doing no harm to our daughter, sisters, mothers, wives, and grandmothers. That is the mentality we should go about with. We cannot stand by while others do harm to our women. We will get further when countries own their responsibility to the growth and development of their girls and women. We need to inform their parliament and country leaders of this. We have a big role to play in educating the children, especially our sons. We need to teach them, as that serves as a foundation to women development. 1:25 p.m. Youth Forum. 30.2 million adolescents are now using modern contraceptives, but our goal is to have 120 million modern contraceptives. 1:28 p.m. There are still very significant barrier for youth advocate to ensure that government are held accountable for their 2020 commitment. 1:33 p.m. Youth Forum. 30.2 million adolescents are now using modern contraceptives, but our goal is to have 120 million women use modern contraceptives. 1:42 p.m. Halima. There is a need for young people to be patient. Learn to work with the adult and maintain a collective voice, and not individual aspiration to excel, as this will go a long way in the advocacy of giving the girl a voice. 2:23 p.m. The story of Family Planning 2020 is about people. It started 5 years ago. It was out of that gathering that the partnership was created to create a platform where women have choices of using contraceptive if and when they want to do. 2:50 p.m. Women and girls need to be empowered. This means they should know their right, and this right means knowing about the contraception and being able to make the decisions to use it. Women should have the privilege to make a decision when they need it. We talk at Women. We are not focusing on women having the ability to make their own decisions. Until women themselves make the decision to have access to family planning, we cannot be successful. From the way I see it, working with global funds is the lack of connection between women right organization working from the perspective of women right through family planning. Right organizations are badly funded and often not connected to the issues on ground. We need to fund this feminist women group because they are not going anywhere. Justice is really important in the area of family planning. Global Funds pledges to raise $75 million to support women rights organizations. 3:00 p.m. UNFPA is fully committed to supporting countries where they work to improve its impacts on families in the communities where they work. 3:02 p.m. Access to voluntarily family planning is a human right, reproductive right, and also an access to gender equality. 3:08 p.m. UNFPA. When women have access to consistent range to various contraceptives, they are more empowered to planning their families. They are in a better position to control their lives. UNFPA is proud of the contraceptives donated across the world. The agency represents about 40% of that pool. 3:11 p.m. Over 200 million women still lacking in family planning, and the world is hearing their voice through this summit today. 3:17 p.m. UNFPA alone requires over $700 million over products and product training happen. We do join in the appeal to say please fulfill commitment to safe lives of women and girls, so that no matter where they live, women and girls have access to quality family planning to plan for their future. 3:22 p.m. Belgium pledges €64 million in the next 4 years as funding to UNFPA, UNADS and UNWOMAN for youth. 3:32 p.m. Indonesia is also in support of FP, commits $1.8 billion in the next 5 years. 3:44 p.m. Ensuring that women can make independent choices about their family life is not only clearly important from a human rights standpoint, but also correct and sensible from a socio-economic growth perspectives. In Syria, women and girls is particularly vulnerable and their needs for family planning is highly intensified. It is disheartening that in 2015 more than 300,000 women died during pregnancy and childbirth. Almost all these deaths occurred in low-income countries and humanitarian sites. 3:51 p.m. Vic Moen of Blue Venture supports people in coastal communities. 3:53 p.m. Isaac Aduwal, Minister of Health Nigeria, said data is a problem in Nigeria. 2 new warehouses will be opened in Nigeria, 1 in Lagos and in Abuja. Mr. Aduwal talked about the improvement the country has made since the last summit 5 years ago. Without products there will be no program. Products are so critical for any program, and what is important about the product is the data. Nigeria is trying to pay due attention to data and products, because if there are no data nothing will be paid for. 4:02 p.m., Nigeria is committed to opening an integrated system, and the new warehouses are done in collaboration with USAID, global funds and the Nigerian government. 4:08 p.m., UNFPA and Nigeria signed NUM. Nigeria will increase funding to $4 million annual to the Basket Fund and ensure distribution of $56 million to state through GFF. 4:10 p.m., we want to include family planning as a routine to Nigeria, such as the immunization route, and remove all barriers, and all primary health care centers will be used as access points to family planning. 4:17 p.m., we want to improve the usage of modern contraceptive in Nigeria across the country to 27%. This is significant to us because there is a wide discrepancies, as in the Northeast the usage of modern contraceptive is about 3% as compared to the about 25% in the Southwest.